Hello, I'm Noel, this is Antonia, and we are from Boxtail Soup Theatre Company, and this is another one of our weekly vlogs, I can't even remember what to do, what is it, Boxtail Scoops. I'm just going to keep doing it until somebody tells me to stop.
Stop.
Doing it. Apart from you.
Okay, fine.
This week we haven't made as much progress with puppet making as we might have normally done, because we've actually had loads of meetings and things to sort out. Some of them are the kind of meetings that are sort of normal obligations, and some of them are to do with the current situation with COVID and lockdown restrictions and things like that, and working out what things look like for the next few months. However, we've got a couple of new puppets and new things to show you. I will put a link in the description. So if you click on see more in the description and you just want to look at the puppets, you can go straight there. But before that, we thought we'd just talk very quickly about why we choose puppets to play the characters that they do. So yeah, we're going to just have a quick chat about that, and then we'll show you the new puppets and new bits that we've been working on over the week.
So when we decided to use puppets for shows, there were lots of reasons why we decided to use puppets in the first place, which we won't go into now. But we wanted to make sure that for each production that we did, there is a rationale behind who is a puppet and who is a human. We mentioned that in a previous vlog, I think, briefly. And for this show, A Christmas Carol is no exception. One of the first things we did, having written the script before we started making puppets, obviously, is to work out who should be a human character and who should be a puppet character.
Because I think when you go and see something and you can't make any sense of why they've done something a certain way, or why and it doesn't, I'm not necessarily talking just about puppets there.
No.
You know, why they've made a certain decision about the casting, or why they've made a certain decision about
the set, or the style of the set,
exactly.
or the style of the lighting.
And the funny thing is, it doesn't matter whether you entirely understand it or not. You can kind of tell when it just feels spurious, or it just feels like it's been done for no reason,
or
for
the
just
sake
for
of
looks,
something that it looks good, or it would be fun to do this thing. And we very much hope that when people come to see a production of ours, that they don't feel like that they feel the whole thing is a cohesive entity, and it makes sense.
Because we've done it for every show. We've taken our
show.
time to consider how many puppets are going to be in the show, and if a character is a puppet, why? Does it make sense? And can we find some rationale to put together that gives us a reason to choose who's who as well?
Some of the clearest ones are probably The Ten of the Screw, which is one of our more recent productions, where we decided that the main character, who thinks she is being haunted and therefore needs to feel vulnerable and lonely and alone to the audience, is the only human character in the show. All other characters are played by puppets, except for the ghosts, which are then played by another human who never speaks to her and never interacts with her. And that definitely, I think, contributes to the sense of isolation.
It totally, yes. She
helps me when I
her.
perform.
She never talks to a human. No. She only ever interacts with those puppet characters, and the only other human performer on stage is the one who's actually kind of causing her, antagonising her, and causing her, distress.
And we go round in circles often when we're trying to figure it out, because it is so important to us. So for A Christmas Carol, obviously, I'm assuming most of you will know the story of A Christmas Carol. It's very famous. If not, we can just look up a brief synopsis, but I'm sure you will. And the main character, obviously, is Ebenezer Scrooge. And the story revolves around him and his redemption, basically. And so we decided quite early on in our puppet human discussions for this show that we thought the rationale probably needed to come from something relating to that character, relating to Scrooge himself.
And we did talk briefly about the possibility of Scrooge being a puppet.
We did, very much, yeah.
And it's a lot to ask, because there's such an emotional journey to go on, and you're asking so much.
And the audience need to be able to, in some way, relate to that character, even if, to begin with, he's just a cold-hearted, horrible man who
they have to make a connection.
They have to make some, and they have to believe in the redemption at the end. That's a lot to ask of a paper card made article. They're brilliant, they have a lot of life, but you do have to be careful and judicious, I think, in how you use them. So we dismissed that fairly early on for that reason. We decided we needed the human connection. So then beyond that, we also like to think about how it looks for an audience, how it feels for an audience. If you're going to have puppetry in a piece, in our opinion, it's quite important to introduce puppets relatively early on, so that they're not a shock if they all arrive at once. So we decided that
suddenly halfway through, the bunch of puppets pop up.
Exactly. So we went through a couple of options, didn't we, whereby it was to do with whether you were in past, present or future, but that meant that you probably would have watched 20 minutes without seeing a puppet at all, and that definitely created a problem. This is all in our opinion, obviously. Other people may completely dispute this, but we felt like that could jar for an audience. So we then went back over it again, and we've come up with, at this point, we've tried to come up with a rationale, but it is to be added to, isn't it? It's very...
These things are always flexible, and they always develop once you're in rehearsal anyway, and once you start looking at the scripts and playing around with it in the space more, then it's always going to grow and it's always going to develop, and it could change to a great extent, really. But you have to start from somewhere. You have to start with...
And it's unlikely to change wholly at this point.
No,
sure. It'll expand or contract within the framework. So having decided we needed to have a mixture of puppets from early on, we also decided it's nice... We felt for this production it would be nice to have a mixture of puppets and humans in most scenes where possible. So we came up with a broad rationale, which, as I said, is related to Scrooge himself, which is that anybody who Scrooge has a personal relationship with, so has known it before, has met before, knows in some form, is a human character. And anybody who he doesn't know but has heard of or is incidental or has only just met is a puppet. And that then worked out quite well throughout the whole thing. We realised if we took that...
It gives a nice even balance.
Yeah. It meant that, for example, when you meet the Cratchit family, we would argue, I think we've argued, that he's met Bob and his wife, but hasn't met the children. So the children are all puppets. Similarly, later on, when he goes to his nephew's house, he knows his nephew very well, but he hasn't met his nephew's friends, so the friends are puppets.
So if you imagine it as a story being played out, as it is on stage, then it's almost as if the characters that he can picture and that he knows are human.
Yeah.
And then everybody else is filled out by these kind of paper characters who've come from the page.
Who maybe have been described to him or, whatever. So yeah, that was the rationale. With one exception, there's a character when he goes into the past, he comes in contact with his little sister, Fanny. And we decided in Scrooge's present, she has died. She died when she was relatively young. She'd had a child, his nephew who we meet, and then she died. So we decided that it made sense for her to be, as a memory, for her to be a puppet. And that still, we felt, fitted in with our rationale. Others may argue, but we think that makes sense to us. And then the ghosts themselves are a different entity altogether. We decided we would separate them.
It was important for them to feel other, as though they weren't from one world or the other. They were a thing entirely of their own.
In and of their own. So, but we will talk about them another time because they are different. So that's the rationale for the
puppets. I think the crucial thing for anything like that, and for when we're developing any kind of... And again, it goes not just for the puppets, is that if you expect an audience to invest in what you're doing and invest in their kind of belief in the story, then it has to make sense. You've got to make sense. It doesn't matter how strange that world is or how fantastical. There has to be some kind of...
And if it makes sense to us, then hopefully in some form or other that will be conveyed to the audience.
Yeah.
So that's that. Moving on then to puppets that we have progressed with this week. Welcome to those of you who skipped to this part in the first place. We have got 3, I suppose, to show you. So I'll do this little one first. So she, last week, was just the very, very basic cardboard frame.
This was the frame that I was...
Yeah. So she was just a very thin frame. She's now, as you can see, been filled out. She still needs a fair bit of work. I popped some eyes in just to give her, so she didn't look scary. But she needs eyelids, she needs smoothing over, and then obviously there will be the hair detail. I'm going to fill out her cheeks a little. I think she's a little too slim in the face, but she's got a nice look about her. So that's that one. And then you will remember that we showed you one that had its first coating of papier-mâché.
So I think this looks really nice.
He is now finished. So this is him. I smoothed him over, gave him some eyelids, and obviously, as you can see, gave him some hair. So he's one of the Cratchit children, hence his red hair. And he's now finished, and we're really pleased with him. He's lovely.
Yeah, he looks lovely. Yeah.
So that's him. And then one we didn't have in the vlog last week, in fact, because he was basically at the same stage as the Peter Cratchit, who I just showed you. But this is another one that we've are continuing to work on. So he's got to the stage where I'm now about to add hair. I've been having a debate with our Instagram followers about whether to give him a moustache. You can weigh in if you like. This is my example of what it could look like. Obviously, this is the bare bones. And I also need to give him some hair. But yeah, let us know if you think he should have a moustache or if you think he shouldn't. So that's him.
I like it.
So there we go. So that's the update on the puppets. Not loads, but well, actually, it was quite a lot really. So.
Yeah, and then I think probably over the next week or so, I'll be moving on to a different stage of them as well. So it should be something a little bit different as well to show. Yeah. Fingers crossed. Anyway, next week.
Thanks very much for watching, and as always, if you would do
if you've enjoyed it, please do like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. All of that helps us, as ever, get the video seen by more people.
Leave us a comment.
Yeah, leave us a comment, that would be fantastic. And sorry about the noise of the rain, if you've caught that at all, by the way. It's very rainy here today. Thanks for watching.